Welcome to the tutorial video, which is going to help you successfully complete the virtual lab related to percents in the Pre-Algebra online course. In this lab, students will play a game called the Oregon Trail by completing percent-based word problems. They will apply percent of increase or decrease to tax discount problems and the rising and falling of a river's water depth. They will also have to work backwards to find percentages based on two numbers. And the link we'll spend most of our time on will be this link right here, students.desmos.com. And we'll also spend some time to help you or give you some advice on how to complete the lab sheet. As always, there are pre-lab questions. In this case, there's two. So be sure to answer those. And then I'm going to read the procedures to you and then demonstrate each step after I read through them. So number one, we're going to click on the link and sign into your free Desmos account and click join. Number two, follow the directions on each slide. Number three, use all interactive on-screen features. However, be sure to write any answer to questions in the calculations section below. Okay, down here where it says calculations, this is where you're going to write your answers, so make sure you do that. Number four, in this lab you will need to share, discuss, and submit answers when indicated on the slides. The simulation uses the solutions found on the previous slide to take you through the simulation. So whatever you enter on one slide, it carries through to the next slide. But as always, your final answers and your results will also have to be transferred over to this lab sheet. Number five, move to the next slide, click on the arrows at the top of each slide. So while I'm on the lab sheet, I do want to point out that in calculations, slide number one, question number one are related. So on Desmos, slide number one goes with question number one. And here's question number two, and this goes with slide number two on Desmos. And I'll demonstrate that as I go through the website. So let me open up the website now. And here I am. We get on the website. It says log in with your free Desmos account. So make sure you log in with your free Desmos account. And here we are on the Oregon Trail tutorial. This is our first slide. As indicated here, this is slide number 1 of 23. And up here on the right side are the navigation buttons. So to go to the next slide, I click next to take me to slide number 2. If I want to go back, I hit the arrow on the left, and I'm back on slide number 1. So this explains the Oregon Trail, and you'll notice some similarities between the slide. Actually, it's exact what's on the slide and what's on question number 1 for your calculations. Okay, it's exactly the same thing. It also says be sure to enter your name and make sure you enter your name at the top of the sheet. So I'm going to go back to the website and I'll type my name in and move on. Don't forget to hit submit after you type your name. Once you hit submit, hit next, and we're going to go to Matt's General Store in Independence, Missouri. Now Matt sells oxen, food, and clothing. And here's some stipulations. You need to purchase supplies for your trip. You have $1,000 to spend. Here's the price list. Oxen are $40 each. Food is 20 cents per pound. Clothing is $10 per set. And Matt is going to charge 5% tax. Now I want to focus on this 5% tax for a minute, because on your lab sheet, you're going to be asked to enter in your tax. And the amount of tax varies from problem to problem, from person to person. So you might be, in this case, I'm charged 5% tax. You do this problem, you might have 9% tax or 10% tax. So that part varies. So on your lab sheet, you go here to where it says enter your tax on slide question number 2 right here. And I type in 5. So 5% tax. There we go. Hit the right number. So Matt charges 5% tax. Type that in. And then we can begin to make our purchases. It says we have to purchase at least 2 oxen, 500 pounds of food, and 5 sets of clothing. I'm intentionally going to enter some incorrect numbers in here because I just want to show you what happens if you do an error. So the first error I'm going to do is I'm going to exceed $1,000. When I click on in here in the cell, you'll notice that a keyboard icon pops up. If you are using a device that's a touchscreen only and you don't have a keyboard, you can click on that and it will open up a keyboard for you to enter the numbers. If you don't want the keyboard, in my case, I'm using a computer keyboard, I can just click on it again and remove the keyboard. So I'm going to type in 100 oxen, I'm going to type in 1,000 pounds of food, and I'm going to type in clothing. I'm going to buy 100 sets of clothing. So I'm at $5,200, and I'm also going to calculate the tax incorrectly. Just add on 5 cents. So I'll say it's $5,200.05. And I enter the cost with tax, hit enter. And see out here I get a prompt that says something's not right. Try again. Make sure you included the tax and the totals not more than $1,000. Well, I exceeded $1,000. Okay, so I have to hit reset. And I'm going to type in some new numbers. And this time I'm going to type in 1 ox. I'll lower my numbers down. I'll type in 100 for the clothing. And I'm sorry, food, 100 pounds of food and 5 sets of clothing. Okay, and for my tax, this time I'll type in the correct tax of $115.50. And once again, I click the blue button that says enter the total cost with tax. And again, it says I did something wrong. I have to purchase at least 5 sets of clothing and 2 oxen. Okay, so I got my numbers here. I have to change them. So I click reset, and this time I'll enter correct numbers so we can move on to the next slide. So I'll type in. I'll just type in the correct numbers. I'll pause the video for a second. I figured you didn't want to watch me type in numbers, so I paused the video. And here's the numbers I did type in. 4 sets of oxen, 500 pounds of food, 10 sets of clothing for a total cost of $360. And using my 5% tax, I came up with a total cost of $378. Enter the total cost. I click this blue button right here. Fingers crossed. Hopefully I got it right. And I did. I got a good prompt here. Great job. Time to hit the trail. So head to the next screen. Now, before I go to the next screen, don't forget we got a lab sheet. So we're going to type in our numbers here. So transfer the numbers from this grid over to your lab sheet like this. And you can see the information from the website was transferred over to the lab sheet exactly as you saw it here. So the same numbers, 4, 510, $160 all the way down to $378. Match what I have here on the website, 4, 510, $160 right down to $378. Okay, let's go to the next slide now. It says time to go to the next screen. So now we're on slide 3. This is going to be slide or question number 3 on the lab sheet. And it says here, press the travel button to continue. So I press travel to trails, and here we have some information. It talks about our date, days traveled, miles traveled, next landmark 180 miles, tells how much money we have left, and gives all the information. So let's go ahead and hit travel to trail. Let's see what happens. So you'll notice the ox is moving along, and they found a stray ox. And we're going to get to the river. And this river is the Kansas River crossing. Down here, if we look at our data, we see that it's taken 15 days to travel. So now we're on April 16th, 1848. We traveled 180 miles. We still have $622 left, but our amount of food went down to $380. Okay, so head to the next screen and try to cross it. So I'm going to follow those directions, go to the next screen. And it says, welcome to the Kansas River crossing. Last year, the depth of the river was 4.2 feet. This year, it dropped 14%. Find the depth of the river this year to cross it. Going back to the lab sheet, here's question number 3. It just says press travel and continue. So there's really nothing to enter for slide number 3. You just watch the oxen go through and look at the information underneath the picture. But on slide 4, we have to enter it into percent. Okay, so we're at the Kansas River. Still dropped 4.2 feet, but what changed was the percentage. Okay, that's going to vary from person to person. So mine was 14 feet, so I'm going to enter 14 here. And find the depth of the river this year to cross it. So this part I'm not going to do for you. You're going to calculate the new depth of the river after it dropped 14%. This is going to be a percent of decrease problem. You're going to enter it in and submit the river depth. Be sure to submit the river depth on your lab sheet. And for pretty much this entire activity is going to repeat much like that. You'll go through, sometimes you'll cross a river, you'll have to make another stop and buy more food, like you'll see here at question number 6. You're going to buy more food. You enter the data just like you did in the previous question, and you continue on with the lab sheet and the activity, noting the one-to-one correspondence with each question goes with a particular slide. I've moved ahead to the end of the Desmos activity to slides 22 and slide 23. Notice slide 22 says this virtual lab took you through the virtual representation or interpretation of the Oregon Trail. How are the calculations in this lab related to the calculations that we encounter every day? You can type your answer here, but you do have to enter them here onto the lab sheet. That's what's going to get scored. And then question 23, what types of things would you want to see a higher percentage on and a lower percentage? There's two parts of that question. Just like on the Desmos activity, higher percentage and lower percentage. You can type your answer here to share, but it's very important that you transfer your answer to here on the lab sheet. So there you go. That's a brief overview of how to successfully complete the Desmos activity related to the Oregon Trail. I hope you found this helpful, and I'll talk to you again on the next tutorial video.